G'day everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Dr. Ken here again. And tonight in the Biohacking Your Emotions series, I want to talk a little bit more about anxiety. This is something that's come up a lot in my sessions with clients about anxiety and that they demonize it. This is going to be a revolutionary new perspective. I really want to encourage listeners out there and people that follow these posts to rethink the purpose of anxiety. Nature doesn't do anything by mistake. I don't believe so anyway. I don't believe that nature gave us humans or any mammals the experience of anxiety by mistake. We've called it anxiety. We could call it a lot of different things. We could have called it anything, but we've given it anxiety and we've demonized it. We say it's a bad thing to have. And I covered it in a previous podcast about why I think anxiety is of value to our survival. One thing I want to actually clarify a little bit further is I'd like to relabel it. That when you start to evolve out of demonizing anxiety and victimizing yourself for having something that is evolutionarily entwined and indoctrinated into our DNA, that you will evolve into a higher class human being. You'll evolve upwards. You'll rise above what other people understand about anxiety. And maybe we should just give it another name. But once we evolve out of that misunderstanding of it and we re-understand its purpose, I think we should call it something completely else, something completely other than anxiety. When you can harness the raw energy that the medical world has labelled as anxiety and give us pills for and tell us we're all bad for having it. That once we've learned how to harness it, we bring it down and we keep it under control. Anxiety that's out of control is a problem. Let me be clear about it. It can be a big problem, but it's also a warning bell that somebody is under significant threat, that they are perceiving, here's perceptions, right? Perceptions, another key word. You are perceiving that you are under threat and you have to survive. Something unidentified. It's not panic. Panic is when you can identify the threat. But anxiety is when you can't. And it's something in the future that may harm you significantly, right? If you have significant anxiety, significant threat of harm. Minor anxiety, a little bit of a touch like, I'm a bit worried that could happen, right? So when we harness anxiety, I think it's very powerful. We use that. We can use that to become determined. As I said in a previous podcast about this stuff, about anxiety, we can use it. But there's one step I may have missed out. In order for it to become determination, we have to call it something else. We have to re-understand it. We relabel it so it has a different meaning to us. And therefore we feel differently about it. That energy that's labelled anxiety, we want to label it as something different. It is a form of pure motivation. All right? When you embed yourself in the cycle of fear that anxiety can create for you when you misunderstand it, then it becomes problematic. It can turn into anger. And anger itself can turn into aggression and frustration and hostility. And we can turn that inward on ourselves. Or we can express it outwards to other people. So to break that, let's understand what that energy is. And we use it to motivate ourselves towards determination. It is sheer motivation. When we use it in the wrong way, when we lack motivation, when we don't use it to propel us into the next evolutionary phase of our survival, that's when we get trapped in that cycle of harm, self-harm and harm towards others. But when we understand, we re-understand that it actually is a form of action energy. It motivates us to become determined, to make a change. It motivates us to learn from something we just did, we call a mistake, right? It's an opportunity to learn. When we use that energy, we call it action energy, right? Action energy that can become determination through motivation. Motivate us to get the hell out of there. Motivate us to change our surroundings, to change our situation, to learn, to teach ourselves, to self-develop, whatever. It's about change. And that comes from action energy. And that comes from anxiety. Okay? Anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing when we re-understand its purpose. Anxiety's purpose is for us to change. When we refuse to change, when we dumb it down with over-medication or lack of understanding of its unique purpose in the evolution of us as humans, when we do not change, that's when we fall into the cycle of harm. Because it is our body trying to tell us, learn and change. Okay? So, when we look at anxiety as action energy to change, that motivation that we have helps us to escape the threat that causes the anxiety in the first place. That's its job, for us to survive. I've said in a previous podcast that humans don't have much in the way to defend themselves. If you strip us out bare naked and throw us out in the forest, no big teeth, no big claws, nothing to catch our prey with except our mind. And anxiety, like a mouse that runs through the house at night time, like most mammals, we are food for many other animals out there if you stripped us down naked and threw us out in the bush. We have to defend ourselves, so we are on high alert. We are aware of dangers around us. That's what anxiety does for us. It keeps us alive when there's a potential threat to our well-being and our safety. That's how we perceive that threat. Sometimes we over-perceive, okay? And we can get things like post-traumatic stress disorder. When the threat was real at the time, and we had heightened anxiety, we come home, we're in a much more passive, less threatening environment. But our DNA doesn't know the difference. Our hormones don't know the difference. And when that loud noise or that angry person or that car is screaming out of control towards us or other things, our bodies instinctively perceive that as a threat. But if we can re-understand what anxiety is about, because anxiety isn't instant. Anxiety often builds up. Anxiety takes time before it becomes problematic. Well, if we can understand and feel that motivational energy, that action energy, before it becomes problematic, we say, okay, I'm experiencing a little bit of that action energy right now. What am I going to do with it? There's a reason for it. First off, what's threatening me? What am I afraid of? How big is it? We covered this in a previous pod, right? So I'm just recapping here. But then say to yourself, what am I meant to learn here? How do I change? What do I need to change? Do I need to change this household? Do I need to change my job? Do I need to change the school? Do I need to change my reactions to things? The way I talk, the way I behave, the way I dress. Action energy is a form of positive energy. It becomes motivation to help you escape what causes that threat and that gives you that anxiety in the first place. Okay? Motivation is energy that's embedded within what we call anxiety. It's in there. But we have conditioned ourselves to not just ignore it, but to demonize it and shut it down. We force ourselves to ignore that energy for change. Now, I long ago read a definition of stupidity was expecting change but not doing anything about it, or doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different things. Why would you ignore your instincts? Why would you mask them? Why would you shut them down? Why would you demonize your instincts that are telling you you're in potential danger? Doesn't make sense, and yet we do it. Most of us do it every day, but it doesn't make sense. So if you've been struggling with anxiety, it's because you haven't understood its purpose. Rethink about it. Think about situations that you've been in that have been threatening to your health and safety and your well-being. That you perceive that this unidentified threat is telling you you're in harm's way. Your anxiety is saying, get the hell out of there. Change the situation, change the environment. It is action energy to be used as motivation to change. Otherwise, you fulfill the definition of stupidity. And I don't know how many people out there would willingly put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm stupid, because I'm ignoring the warning signs intentionally. All right. So I just encourage you to think about that. Don't demonize yourself. You're not a horrible person because you experience anxiety. It means you're listening. It means you are aware, self-aware. And isn't that a good thing? Why should we silence it? Why should we shut it down? Anxiety is nature's way of helping to keep us safe. Listen to it. Don't shut it down. Don't mask it and don't lock it out. And don't demonize it, because then you demonize yourself. And that leads to a whole barrage of problematic situations when you do that. Embrace the energy called anxiety and then use it. Give it a purpose. And that purpose is to change. You do that by giving it action through motivation. But before you do that, have a goal, okay? Don't just go out and go, blah, I'm going to do something. I'll do something. Don't know what, but I don't know what, blah, blah. You know, why do people go and study? Why do people change jobs? Because they had motivation to do so, because they felt insecure. They felt threatened. Might be financial, the threat of financial ruin, the threat of losing your home, the threat of losing your health, okay? The threat of losing loved ones, losing lots of things gives us that experience of anxiety. So once you recognize that, change the outcome, set a goal, and then use that as action energy that becomes motivation, that then becomes determination, success, and achievement. And it's just a few short series of steps to re-understand the purpose of what you call anxiety. Give it a different name. Don't call it that. Action energy. But do something with it. No good in having this pool of energy that's got nothing to do with it. No purpose. Okay? Give it a purpose. Set yourself an objective and go for it. It's Dr. Ken out.